Mini dump write dump. In this section, we'll develop our own C# application to execute a memory dump that we can parse with Mimikatz. When Task Manager and ProcDump create a dump file, they are invoking the Win32 mini dump write dump API. This means that we can write our own application in C# that does the same thing. To begin, we'll go over the function prototype. This function requires a lot of arguments, but only the first 4 are needed for our use case. The first 2 arguments must be a handle to LSASS and the process ID of LSASS, respectively. The third argument is a handle to the file that will contain the generated memory dump. And the fourth is an enumeration type, which will set to mini dump with full memory, or its numerical value of 2, to obtain a full memory dump. With the foundational understanding of the API in place, we'll create a Visual Studio C# console app on the Windows 10 client called MiniDump. Select Release Build and set the CPU architecture to 64-bit. Next, we'll add the pinvoke translated DLL import statement for mini dump write dump. Before we can call mini dump write dump, we have to set up the 4 required arguments. First, we'll obtain the process ID of LSASS and open a handle to it. To get the process ID, we can use the getProcessesByName method of the process class, supplying the process name as a string, and select the ID property. We must include the System Diagnostics namespace to make use of the process class. We can obtain a handle to the LSASS process with the Win32 Open Process API, just as we would with process injection. We'll include the DLL import statement for Open Process and supply the arguments for full access, no inheritance, and the process ID of LSASS. Now that we have the first 2 arguments in place, we must set up the dump file. Instead of using the Win32 Create File API, we can take advantage of the FileStream class along with its constructor. To instantiate the FileStream object, we must supply 2 arguments, the name and full path of the file, and the file mode create option, indicating that we want to create a new file. We'll also include the System I/O namespace to use the FileStream class. Now that we have all the pieces in place, we can invoke mini dump write file. When supplying the file handle argument to mini dump write dump, we must convert it to a C-style file handle through the dangerous getHandle method of the safe file handle class. After compiling the project, we can execute it from an elevated command prompt and generate a dump file. With the dump file created, we can run Mimikatz to parse it as we did in the last example. The output reveals that our custom C# application did, in fact, create a valid dump file for LSASS. By stepping away from pre-developed tools, we have improved our tradecraft and likely avoided antivirus detection.